Kralik stood on the observation deck of the Coalition command station and watched the stars. He had been watching stars for 200 years. In all that time, he had never felt anything but calm certainty. Fear was not something his people knew. The Centauri had removed it from themselves long ago, replacing the old animal panic with cold logic and perfect control. The door behind him opened. A human walked in, wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's military. The human was shorter than Kralik's by half a meter, with black hair and dark eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Commander Kralik?" the human said. "I'm Taesung, Earth's 7th Expeditionary Force. I'll be working with you." Kralik turned and studied the human. Taesung's heartbeat was steady, his breathing controlled. But Kralik could see the tiny signs his people had learned to read in other species. This human was experiencing low-level stress hormones. His body was preparing for potential danger even though they stood in perfect safety. How strange, Kralik thought, to live like that. Always ready to run or fight. "I have read your species files," Kralik said. "You are new to the Coalition. Your technology is adequate but not exceptional. Your physical abilities are below average for spacefaring species." Taesung smiled slightly. "That's all true. Yet you volunteered for frontline duty against the Velthrak swarm. The casualty rates in those sectors exceed 60%. 67%. "Actually," Taesung said, "we updated the numbers last week." Kralik waited for more explanation. When none came, he asked, "Why would you accept such odds?" "Because someone has to," Taesung said simply. "The Velthrak won't stop themselves. So we stopped them." The human turned and looked out at the stars. For a moment, they stood in silence. Then Taesung spoke again. "My team is preparing in Bay 12. We deploy in 6 hours. You should meet them before we go." Bay 12 was organized chaos. Humans moved between equipment cases and weapon racks, checking gear and calling to each other. Kralik noticed immediately that they were relaxed. Some were laughing. One was eating something that smelled aggressively spiced. Taesung led him to a group near the center of the bay. "This is Hyejin," Taesung said, indicating a woman studying a holographic tactical display. "Our strategic officer." Hyejin looked up and nodded. "Commander, good to have Centauri support. Your combat record is impressive. And this is Daeho," Taesung continued, pointing to a large man checking a massive weapon. "Heavy weapons." Daeho grinned at Kralik. "You ever fire a plasma cannon while falling out of a ship? It's fantastic." Kralik did not understand why that would be fantastic. It sounded tactically unsound. A woman with medical insignia approached. "Yunbi," she introduced herself. "I'll be keeping everyone alive. Or trying to, anyway." "Your casualty rates suggest you are not entirely successful," Kralik observed. Yunbi's expression didn't change. "No, we're not. But we keep trying." The last introduction was Byung-woo, a slim man who moved with unusual grace. "Reconnaissance and piloting," he said. "I find trouble and then I get us out of it, usually." "Usually?" Kralik asked. Byung-woo shrugged. "Nobody's perfect." Kralik spent the next hour observing the humans prepare. They were efficient, he noted. But they also wasted time on what seemed like meaningless conversation. They made jokes about death and injury. They discussed plans that had very low probability of success without apparent concern. Yejin approached him with a data tablet. "Mission briefing," she said. "We're defending Mining Colony 774. Intelligence suggests a Velthrak scout force will attack within 48 hours. Kralik reviewed the data. The colony has minimal defenses. The Velthrak force is estimated at 200 units. We have 43 personnel. 44 counting you, Hyejin said. These odds are not favorable. No, Hyejin agreed. But the miners need time to evacuate. We give them that time, even if it cost your lives. Hyejin met his eyes. Especially then. That's when it matters most. The transit to the colony took 3 hours. Kralik spent it reviewing human military history. What he found disturbed him. Humans lost constantly. Their battles were filled with defeats, retreats, and disasters. But somehow they kept winning wars. They would lose 10 battles, then win the 11th, and that would be enough. They accepted casualties that would break other species. They fought in conditions that should have made them surrender. And somehow, impossibly, they survived. When they arrived at the colony, Kralik helped establish defensive positions. The humans worked quickly, setting up weapons emplacements and sensor networks. Taesung coordinated everything with calm efficiency. The Velthrak arrived 36 hours later. Kralix was in the command center when the alarm sounded. Heejin pulled up the tactical display. The enemy force was larger than expected. 300 units, not 200. Well, Daeho said over the comm. That's inconvenient. Revised defensive plan, Hyejin said, her fingers moving across the display. Fall back to secondary positions after initial contact. Use the mining tunnels for cover. Lead them into the canyon where Daeho can hit them from above. Survival probability? Taesung asked. Heejin paused for only a second. 40% for the team. 95% for the evacuating miners. Kralix waited for someone to object, to suggest a safer plan, to recommend retreat. Instead, Taesung nodded. Good enough. Everyone to positions. The first wave hit their outer defenses like a storm. The Velthrak were insectoid creatures, each the size of a large human, moving with terrible speed and coordination. They swarmed over the barricades, absorbing fire and pressing forward. Kralix fought with Centauri precision, each shot finding a target. But beside him, he heard something unexpected. Daeho was laughing. Come on, the human shouted, his heavy weapon roaring. Is that all you've got? The man was grinning while death swarmed toward them. His heart rate was elevated, his movements showed signs of adrenaline response, but he fought with joy. Kralix did not understand. Fall back, Taesung ordered. Secondary positions! They retreated through the colony in organized chaos. The humans moved in practiced patterns, covering each other, never leaving anyone behind. When one of them stumbled, two more were there immediately. In the mining tunnels, the Velthrak followed. The narrow spaces limited their numbers. Byung-woo led the enemy deeper, then triggered explosives that collapsed sections behind them. Canyon position, Heijin called. They emerged into a narrow canyon. The Velthrak poured after them, and then Daeho, positioned on the ridge above, opened fire. The heavy weapons tore through the enemy force, channeled into the kill zone by the canyon walls. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, the Velthrak were retreating, leaving their dead behind. The human team had lost 6 people. 38 survived. Kralix watched Yoonbi treating the wounded. She worked with fierce concentration, trying to save everyone even when the math said it was hopeless. Sometimes she succeeded. That night, the surviving humans gathered in the command center. They didn't celebrate. They read the names of the dead quietly. They discussed what went wrong and what went right. They prepared for the next fight. Taesung found Kralix on the observation deck. You fought well, the human said. I do not understand your people, Kralix replied. You knew the odds. You knew some of you would die. Yet you smiled while fighting. Daeho was laughing. Taesung was quiet for a moment. We were scared, he said finally. All of us. Terrified, actually. But we've learned that fear is just information. It tells you something matters. It doesn't tell you to stop. My people removed fear, Kralix said. We function better without it. Maybe, Taesung said. But would you have laughed? Would you have felt that moment when you know you might die but you keep fighting anyway? That's not absence of fear. That's something else. Kralix thought about this as he looked at the stars. For 200 years he had fought without fear. He had called himself a warrior, a commander, a defender of the coalition. But watching these fragile humans fight and die and laugh in the face of death, he wondered if he had ever truly understood what those words meant. We have another mission in 3 days, Taesung said. Bigger, worse odds. You're welcome to come with us. Kralix should have declined, should have returned to his own unit, to the perfect order of Centauri military doctrine. Instead, he heard himself say, I will accompany you. Taesung smiled. Good. I think we have things to teach each other. As the human walked away, Kralix felt something strange in his chest. His neural suppressors reported unusual activity in his limbic system. For just a moment, he felt something he had never felt before. He felt uncertain, and strangely, he wanted to feel more. 3 days became 3 weeks. Kralix found himself staying with the human unit, mission after mission. The Coalition Command raised no objections. They were happy to have Centauri experience embedded with the humans, hoping some of it would make the humans more cautious. They did not understand that it was working the other way around. Kralix sat in the recreation area of the human ship, watching Byung-woo and another soldier play some kind of game with tiles. They were laughing about something that had happened during the last mission. when Byung-woo had nearly crashed their shuttle into an asteroid while evading enemy fire. "You should have seen Yunbi's face," Byung-woo said, grinning. "She was screaming medical terms at me. I didn't even know half those words." "You nearly killed us all," the other soldier said. But he was smiling too. "Nearly doesn't count," Byung-woo replied. Kralix had been trying to understand this behavior. Humans seemed to find humor in their near-death experiences. They joked about injuries, about close calls, about the constant possibility of death. At first he thought it was denial. Now he suspected it was something else, something like defiance. Late that night, Kralix was reviewing tactical data when Byung-woo entered the command center. The human was off duty, wearing casual clothes, carrying a cup of something hot that smelled bitter and energizing. "Can't sleep?" Byung-woo asked, sitting down nearby. "Centauri require less sleep than humans," Kralix said. "I was analyzing our combat patterns." Byung-woo nodded, sipping his drink. They sat in silence for a while. Then the human spoke. "You're trying to figure us out, aren't you?" Kralix considered denying it, but saw no reason to. "Yes, your species is contradictory. You understand danger better than most species I have encountered, yet you actively seek it." "We don't seek danger," Byung-woo said. "We just don't let it stop us. Why not? Your bodies are fragile. You heal slowly. Your lifespans are short even without combat. Logic would suggest preservation of that limited life." Byung-woo was quiet for a moment, looking at his drink. "Can I ask you something? When you fight, what do you feel?" "I assess the tactical situation. I calculate optimal responses. I execute them. But what do you feel?" "Centauri do not feel in combat. We removed that capacity. It made us superior warriors." Byung-woo shook his head slowly. "I don't think that's superiority. I think that's amputation." Kralix felt something almost like offense. "You believe emotional response improves combat effectiveness?" "No," Byung-woo said. "I think it improves being alive." He set down his cup and leaned forward. "When I'm flying through enemy fire, my hands shake. My heart pounds so hard I think it might break my ribs. My brain screams at me to run, to hide, to do anything but keep flying forward. That sounds debilitating. It is. It's also what keeps me alive. That fear makes me pay attention to every detail. Makes me react faster. Makes me remember that this matters." Byung-woo paused. "You know what fear really is? It's your brain screaming, 'Pay attention, this is important.' We just learned not to let it drive. We drive, fear is just a passenger telling us to be careful." Kralix processed this. "But you still feel it constantly." "Yeah, every single mission, every single fight. I'm scared before, during, and after." "That seems like a terrible way to exist," Byung-woo smiled slightly. "It is, but it's also honest. We're small and weak and fragile, and the universe is full of things that want to kill us. Fear is our brain being realistic about that. The trick is doing it anyway." The conversation stayed with Kralix in the following days. He began watching the humans more carefully during downtime. He noticed things he had missed before. The way they comforted each other after losses. The way they prepared for missions with grim determination rather than confidence. The way they talked about fear openly without shame. During combat drills, Taesung invited Kralix to participate in human tactical exercises. Kralix was physically superior, faster and stronger than any human. But he found himself struggling with their scenarios. "You're thinking too linearly," Hyejin observed, watching him work through a simulation. "You see the optimal path and take it. We don't have that luxury. We have to think around our limitations." She reset the simulation. "Try again. But this time, assume you're weaker than the enemy. Assume you're slower. Assume direct confrontation means death." Kralix attempted the scenario with these constraints. It felt wrong, like fighting with one hand tied. But slowly he began to see different possibilities, indirect approaches, ambushes, using the environment as a weapon. "Better," Yejin said. "Now you're thinking like us. We can't win fair fights, so we don't fight fair." Later, Yunbi showed him the medical bay. It was larger than standard for a ship this size, with more equipment dedicated to trauma care. "We break easily," she explained, showing him various systems, "so we got very good at putting ourselves back together." She pulled up casualty statistics. "Look at this. 5 years ago, our survival rate for major combat injuries was 40%. Now it's 72%. Impressive improvement." "Necessity is a hell of a teacher," Yunbi said. She turned to face him directly. "You Centauri are strong, tough. You can take damage we can't, but we got creative because we had to. You want to know why we survive? It's not courage or luck. It's stubbornness. We're too stubborn to die quietly. That evening, Taesung invited Kralix to join him in his quarters. The human commander had a bottle of something alcoholic and 2 glasses. I don't drink, Kralix said. I know. Centauri metabolisms process alcohol instantly. This is for me. Taesung poured himself a small amount. But I wanted to talk. Kralix sat. Taesung was silent for a moment, looking at his glass. You asked before why we accept these odds, the human finally said. Why we volunteer for missions with 67% casualties. I gave you an answer, but it wasn't the whole truth. What is the whole truth? Taesung took a small sip. We're terrified. All of us. Every day. We wake up knowing we might not see tomorrow. We say goodbye to people knowing it might be the last time. We make jokes about it, but underneath, we're scared children pretending to be soldiers. Then why continue? Because someone has to, Taesung said quietly. The Velthrak will kill everyone if we don't stop them. They'll kill the miners, the colonists, the children, everyone. And we can stop them. It might cost us everything, but we can do it. He looked at Kralix. You asked me once what I fight for. I said victory, honor, the coalition. That was also incomplete. I fight for those people. For the ones who can't fight. For the future I might not see, but they might. Fear of losing them makes me dangerous. Does that make sense? Kralix thought about it. His people had removed fear to become better warriors. But perhaps they had removed something else too. Removed the connection to what they were protecting. Made it abstract. Made it tactical. I am beginning to understand, Kralix said slowly. Over the next week, intelligence reports came in. The Velthrak were massing near the Kronos sector. Something big was happening. Coalition Command wanted to observe, gather data, wait for a clearer picture. Taesung gathered his senior officers. Heejin presented her analysis. It's a hive world, she said, pointing at the tactical display, not just a military outpost. They're breeding. If we don't hit it now, in 6 months there will be 10 times as many Velthrak. Coalition Command already said no. One of the other officers said, Too risky. They want more reconnaissance first. By then it'll be too late, Taesung said. We know where it is. We know what it is. We can end this before it starts. The survival probability is 15%, Heejin said quietly. Maybe lower. The room was silent. Kralix watched the humans process this information. He saw the fear in their eyes, saw them swallow hard, saw their breathing quicken slightly. They were scared, and then one by one they nodded. Then we go without authorization, Taesung said. I'll take the blame afterward if anyone survives to complain. When do we leave? Byung-woo asked. 48 hours. Use that time for whatever you need. Say whatever goodbyes you need to say. As the meeting broke up, Taesung approached Kralix. You don't have to come, the human said. This isn't official. It's not even legal. Coalition Command will be furious. Kralix should have said no. Should have followed proper procedure, followed orders, followed the logic that said 15% survival probability was unacceptable. Instead, he thought about Byung-woo's words. About fear being honest, about courage being action despite that fear. I will accompany you, Kralix said. Taesung smiled, but there was sadness in it. Thank you. Though I'm not sure bringing you to your death is much of a friendship. Perhaps, Kralix said. But I find I want to understand what you are all willing to die for. The only way to learn that is to risk it myself. That night, Kralix reviewed human history files again. He read about something called the Battle of Thermopylae, about Spartans who knew they would die but stood anyway. He read about countless other battles where humans fought impossible odds. The pattern was clear. Humans didn't win because they were fearless. They won because they fought despite fear. Because they decided some things mattered more than survival. For 200 years, Kralix had fought without feeling. Without fear, without doubt, without hesitation. He had thought that made him a perfect warrior. The ship cut through space toward the Kronos sector in complete silence. No communications, no active sensors, nothing that might alert the Velthrak to their approach. Inside, 44 soldiers prepared for what most of them knew was a one-way mission. Kralix checked his weapon for the 3rd time. He noticed his hands were not quite steady. His neural suppressors sent warning signals. Something was wrong with his emotional regulation systems. He should report to medical. He didn't. Byung-woo sat in the pilot's chair, his fingers moving across the controls with practiced ease. But Kralix could see the tension in his shoulders. the way his jaw was clenched. The human was scared. They all were. Approaching the asteroid field, Byung-woo announced. Everyone hold on. This is going to be unpleasant. That was an understatement. The asteroids around the Velthrak hive world were dense, moving fast, and completely unmapped. Byung-woo flew through them like he was dancing, the ship twisting and turning through gaps that seemed too small to exist. Someone behind Kralix was praying quietly. Someone else was humming a song. Normal human behavior before potential death, he had learned. They made it through. The hive world appeared on their screens, a dark planet covered in organic structures that pulsed with unnatural light. It looked diseased. It looked wrong. That's worse than the briefing suggested, Daeho muttered. Insertion point is on the northern hemisphere, Heejin said, marking positions on everyone's tactical displays. We go in through the atmosphere here, land here, move through these tunnels to the breeding chambers. Plant the charges, get out, simple. Since when is anything simple? Eunbi asked, but she was already checking her medical supplies. The descent was rough. The planet's atmosphere fought them. Storms that existed for no natural reason. Byung-woo brought them down hard but intact, the ship settling into a canyon between massive organic structures. We're down, Tae-sung said. Teams of 4. Stay in communication. If you can't plant your charge, mark it and move on. We have 90 minutes before the Velthrak notice we're here. Kralix was assigned to Tae-sung's team, along with Eunbi and another soldier named Ji-won. They moved through the entrance quickly, weapons ready, into darkness that seemed to absorb their lights. The tunnels were wrong in ways Kralix couldn't fully explain. The walls moved slightly, breathing. The floor was soft and warm. It felt like being inside something alive, something massive and hostile. I hate this, Ji-won whispered. I really, really hate this. Focus, Tae-sung said quietly. First charge point is ahead. They placed the first explosive without incident, then the second. But as they approached the third location, deeper in the hive, Kralix felt something change. His enhanced senses detected movement in the walls, heat signatures appearing everywhere at once. They know we're here, he said. The alarm was immediate and overwhelming, a sound that vibrated through the walls, through their bones, a shriek of rage that made even Kralix flinch. All teams, plant charges and extract now, Tae-sung ordered into his comm. Don't wait for optimal placement. Just set them and run! The tunnels erupted with movement. Velthrak poured from openings that hadn't existed moments before, their insectoid bodies moving with terrible speed. Kralix fired, his weapon cutting down the first wave. But there were so many, too many. They kept coming, an endless swarm of claws and teeth and killing intent. Go, Tae-sung shouted. Back to the ship they ran. Not a tactical retreat, not an organized withdrawal. They ran like prey through tunnels that twisted and changed, with death chasing them from every direction. Eunbi stumbled. Kralix grabbed her without thinking, his centauri strength letting him carry her while still firing behind them. Ji-won provided covering fire, his weapon roaring in the confined space. This was when it happened. When Kralix felt something his people had removed 2,000 years ago, terror. Pure animal terror that flooded his body with chemicals his neural suppressors couldn't control. His hands shook. His vision tunneled. His ancient prey instincts screamed at him to freeze, to hide, to curl up and hope the predators passed by. He couldn't breathe right. Couldn't think clearly. His hearts pounded so hard he thought they might break. The fear was overwhelming, drowning, absolute. He froze at a junction, his body refusing to obey him. Tae-sung grabbed him, shaking him hard. I'm scared too. Feel it, use it, move. Something in the human's voice cut through the panic. Kralix looked at Tae-sung and saw the same fear in his eyes. The same terror. But the human was moving anyway, fighting anyway, living anyway. They ran deeper into the hive, the path to the surface blocked. The Velthrak were everywhere, cutting off exits, driving them toward the center, toward the breeding chambers. This is bad, Ji-won said, his voice tight. This is very bad. They burst into a massive chamber and Kralix understood what bad actually meant. The room was full of eggs. Thousands of eggs, each the size of a human, pulsing with life. And between them, tending them, were Velthrak warriors larger than any they had seen before. Final charge point, Tae-sung said, already moving. We plant it here, this whole section goes up. But the charge device was damaged. A crack across its surface, critical components exposed. It won't detonate remotely, Eunbi said, examining it. Someone needs to stay and manually trigger it. The words hung in the air. Manual trigger meant 20 seconds. 20 seconds to activate to let the reaction build. No way to get clear in time. Tae-sung started entering the activation sequence. Kralik stopped him. "You have people who need you," Kralik said. The words came out steady despite the fear that still gripped him. "Let me." "You don't have to do this," Tae-sung said. "Yes, I do." Kralik felt the fear fully now, not trying to suppress it. It was enormous. It was honest. It was real. "I spent 200 years without fear and called myself brave. You spend every day afraid and choose courage anyway. Let me learn what that means." Before Tae-sung could argue, Daeho's voice came over the comm. "I'm already here. Set the other charges. This one's mine." "Daeho, no," Tae-sung said. "That's an order." "Sorry, can't hear you, bad connection," Daeho replied. His video feed showed him in another chamber, surrounded by Velthrak bodies. He was wounded, bleeding heavily. "Already set the other charges. This is the last one. Get everyone out." "We don't leave people behind," Tae-sung said. "You're not leaving me." "I'm staying." Daeho's voice was calm. "Tell them we made it hurt. Tell them we showed those bastards why humans don't quit." The Velthrak were closing in. Kralik could see them in Daeho's feed, dozens of them converging on his position. "Go," Daeho said. "That's my order. Get them home, Tae-sung." Tae-sung was silent for a moment, then quietly, "It's been an honor." "Damn right it has," Daeho said. "Now move," they ran. Through tunnels that were collapsing, through swarms of Velthrak trying to stop them, through fire and darkness and death. Kralik's fear gave him speed he didn't know he had, made him react to threats before his conscious mind registered them. They reached the ship. Other teams were arriving, fewer than had left. Byung-woo already had the engines running. "Daeho?" someone asked. Tae-sung shook his head. "Get us out now!" The ship lifted as the first charges detonated. The hive world shook. Through the rear cameras they watched as sections of the surface collapsed inward. "Detonating final charge." Daeho's voice came through, surprisingly clear. "For Earth, for all of us. See you on the other side." The explosion was massive. It tore through the breeding chambers, through the support structures, through the hive itself. The shockwave caught their ship, throwing them forward. Byung-woo fought the controls, his skill and fear-driven focus keeping them steady. They shot through the atmosphere, through the asteroid field, away from the dying world. Inside the ship, silence. 38 humans had gone down. 29 came back. 9 humans dead, along with Daeho, who had volunteered for certain death to save them all. Kralik sat in the corner, still shaking. Not from his suppressors failing, from fear. Raw, honest fear that had kept him alive, that had made him faster and sharper and more aware than he had ever been. He had felt terror. He had run from death. He had wanted desperately to survive. And in feeling all of that, he had understood what it meant to choose courage. Yunbi sat beside him, her own hands shaking. She said nothing, just sat there, sharing the moment. Sharing the fear. Sharing the survival. Tae-sung moved through the ship, checking on everyone. When he reached Kralik's, the human commander sat down heavily. "You okay?" Tae-sung asked. "No," Kralik said honestly. "I am terrified. I'm shaking. My neural suppressors are failing and I am feeling everything. It is overwhelming." "Yeah," Tae-sung said. "That's fear. Welcome to humanity. How do you live like this?" Tae-sung was quiet for a moment. "You get used to it. Or you don't and you do it anyway. That's the secret we learned. Fear tells you something matters. It doesn't tell you to quit." Kralik looked at the human. Tae-sung was exhausted, grieving, probably as scared as Kralik. But he was checking on his people, making sure they were okay, being the leader they needed. "Daeho knew he would die," Kralik said. "Yes. And he chose it anyway." "Yes. Because he was afraid of what would happen if he didn't." Tae-sung looked at him. "Now you're understanding us." Kralik thought about his 200 years of fearless combat, of perfect emotionless warfare. The return to Coalition space was silent. 29 survivors in a ship meant for 40. Empty chairs in the mess hall. Gear that would never be claimed. Kralik had seen death before, countless times, but he had never felt it like this. Grief was heavy. It sat in his chest like a stone. When he closed his eyes, he saw Daeho's last moments, heard his last words, felt the fear and the courage and the terrible cost of survival. His people would say his neural suppressors were malfunctioning, would insist on repair, would restore him to the perfect, emotionless state he had existed in for 2 centuries. He would refuse. Coalition Command was indeed furious. The unauthorized mission, the casualties, the breach of protocol. Admiral Chen, a stern woman from the Andromedan delegation, met them in the docking bay. Her expression promised consequences. But then the intelligence reports came in. The hive world was destroyed. The Velthrak breeding operation was gone. Analysis suggested the enemy's ability to produce new forces had been set back by months, possibly years. The anger turned to confused gratitude. The consequences turned to medals they didn't want. Yunbi held Daeho's medal during the ceremony. She didn't cry, just stood there, holding the metal disc that was supposed to somehow equal a human life. Kralik stood beside her, along with Taesung and the others. They wore their dress uniforms and accepted praise from people who had never been scared for their lives. After the ceremony, Kralik was summoned to Centauri High Command. 4 generals, each older than Kralik by centuries, sat in perfect composure and studied him. "Your neural suppressors are failing," General Kixar said. It was not a question. "They are functioning. I am choosing not to use them fully. That is unacceptable. Centauri warriors do not permit emotional compromise." Kralik met their eyes. "I spent 200 years calling myself a warrior without understanding what that word meant. The humans taught me. The humans are weak, emotional, inefficient. The humans are terrified every day and fight anyway. That is not weakness. That is strength I never knew existed." The generals conferred in rapid Centauri. Then Kixar spoke again. "You will report to medical for neural restoration. That is an order." "I refuse." The silence was absolute. Centauri officers did not refuse direct orders. It was unthinkable. "You understand the consequences?" Kixar asked quietly. "I do, and I accept them. I will not return to not feeling, not after learning what feeling actually means." They discharged him from Centauri service that day. 200 years of service ended in a single meeting. He should have felt shame. Instead, he felt free. Taesung found him in the observation deck that evening. "Heard you got kicked out," the human said, sitting beside him. "Yes." "Sorry. That's my fault. Shouldn't have dragged you into our human nonsense." "You did not drag me. I chose. And I would choose again." They sat in silence, watching the stars. Finally, Taesung spoke. New intelligence came in. "The Velthrak are adapting, learning from how we fight. And they're massing again. Something big." "How big?" "End of the war big. One way or another." Taesung pulled up a tactical display. "They're gathering their entire force. Every ship, every soldier, every resource. And the target is Earth." Kralik studied the numbers. They were catastrophic. The Velthrak force was 50 times larger than anything they had faced. Even with the full coalition fleet, the odds were impossibly bad. "What will the coalition do?" he asked. "Command is debating. Some want to evacuate. Some want to negotiate. Some want to establish defensive lines and cede territory." Taesung's expression was hard. "Basically, they want to give the Velthrak whatever they want if it means survival. And Earth? Earth will fight. We don't have anywhere else to go. That's our home, our families, everything we are." Taesung looked at him. "We're going to die, all of us, but we'll make them remember it." Kralik felt the fear again, deep and instinctive. The knowledge that death was coming and there was no logic, no calculation that would prevent it, just the choice to face it or run. "I will fight with you," he said. "You don't have to. You're not even in service anymore. You could go anywhere." "Where would I go? Back to my people who do not feel? Forward to safety, while the ones who taught me to live die alone?" Kralik shook his head. "No. I understand now what is worth dying for. You showed me. Let me stand with you." Taesung smiled, sad and grateful. "Thank you, my friend." The next day, Coalition Command held an emergency session. Representatives from 24 species filled the chamber, arguing over response strategies. The humans sat quietly, letting the others debate. Finally, the Andromedan admiral asked the question everyone was avoiding. "Earth, what is your position?" Taesung stood. The chamber fell silent. "We will defend our home," he said simply. "The Felthrak can have the rest of the galaxy if you want to give it to them, but Earth is ours. We'll fight." "The projected casualties are total," a Rigelian delegate said. "You're talking about extinction." "Maybe," Taesung acknowledged. "But we'll go down fighting. We'll make it so costly that maybe they'll think twice before attacking the next species. That's worth something." "It's worth nothing if you're dead," the Rigelian argued. "To you, maybe. To us, it's everything." Heejin activated a display, showing their defensive plan. It was elaborate, creative, desperate. It turned Earth's solar system into a weapon. Asteroids, moons, the gas giants, even the sun itself, all incorporated into the defense. "This is insane," someone muttered. "Probably," Heejin agreed. "But it's what we have. We'll give them the fight of their lives. Who wants to join us?" The chamber erupted in debate. Many species advocated for retreat, for negotiation, for anything but facing the overwhelming Velthrak force. Then Kralix stood. "I am no longer Centauri military," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. "I have no official standing here, but I will speak anyway." Admiral Chen nodded permission. "I came to the human unit to observe warriors. I found something else. I found people who live with fear every day and choose courage anyway, who know they are weak and choose to fight anyway, who understand death intimately and choose life fiercely." He looked around the chamber. "I removed fear 200 years ago. I thought it made me strong. These humans taught me I was wrong. Fear is not weakness. Running from fear is weakness. They face it. Live with it. Use it. That is strength." Kralix turned to the human delegation. "They will fight alone if they must. They will die if they must. But they will not abandon their home. I know this because I have fought beside them. I have seen them choose death over surrender again and again." He faced the chamber again. "So I ask you, what does it say about us if we abandon them, if we let them stand alone? They are the youngest species here, the weakest by most measures, and they are the only ones brave enough to fight. Does that not shame you?" The chamber was silent. One by one, representatives began to speak. Not all of them, but enough. The Centauri Empire, despite discharging Kralix, would send ships. The Andromedans would fight. The Rigelians, the Tau Cetans, the Proxima delegates. Not everyone, but enough to matter. After the session, various military leaders approached Taesung, offering support. Kralix watched the human commander coordinate with them, organizing a defense that had seemed impossible an hour before. Byungwoo found Kralix in the corridor. "Heard your speech. It was good." "I spoke truth." "Yeah, that's what made it good." Byungwoo's expression was serious. "You know we're probably going to die, right? All of us. This isn't like the Hive. We're not sneaking in and out. This is a stand-up fight against impossible odds." "I know. And you're still coming?" "I learned from the best," Kralix said. "Fear tells you something matters. It does not tell you to quit." Byung-woo grinned. "You really have been hanging around us too long. You're starting to sound human." That night, Kralix sat in his quarters trying to meditate. But his mind would not quiet. He kept seeing the battle to come, kept feeling the fear of it. His neural suppressors offered to filter it away, to restore the calm certainty he had known for so long. He refused. Yunbi found him there, staring at nothing. "Can't sleep either?" she asked, sitting down without invitation. "I am attempting to process the probability of our survival." "Don't bother. It's not good." She pulled out a small bottle and 2 glasses. "Want some? It's from Earth, called whiskey. Tastes like burning wood, but it helps." "I cannot get intoxicated." "Then you can keep me company while I do." She poured herself a drink. "Can I ask you something?" "Yes." Why are you really doing this? You don't owe us anything. You could go anywhere, live another few centuries somewhere safe, but you're choosing to die with us. Why? Kralix thought about his answer carefully. I existed for 200 years. I was functional, efficient, successful, but I was not alive. You, Taesung, Daeho, all of you taught me the difference between existing and living, between functioning and feeling, between surviving and having something worth dying for. He looked at her. I cannot go back to not feeling, not after knowing what feeling means. And if I am to die, I would rather die with people who taught me to live than exist forever with people who never learned. Yunbi wiped her eyes. Damn it. I was trying not to cry before the battle. Why not? Tears are honest. Another thing you taught me. She laughed, crying harder. We really screwed you up, didn't we? Turned a perfectly good emotionless warrior into a feeling mess. Earth's solar system transformed into a fortress in 3 days. Every ship, every station, every resource focused on one goal: make the Velthrak pay for every meter of space. Kralix commanded a mixed fleet, human destroyers working alongside Centauri cruisers and Andromedan fighters. It should have been chaotic. Different species, different doctrines, different command structures. But something had changed. The other species were learning from the humans. Learning to improvise. Learning to accept fear and use it. Jin and a team of human strategists had designed something they called Operation Hail Mary. It was brilliant and insane in equal measure. They would turn the solar system itself into a weapon. The asteroid belt became a minefield. Jupiter's gravity well became a trap. Saturn's rings became cover for ambush positions. Even the sun itself became part of the defense, its magnetic fields weaponized to create focused energy bursts. It shouldn't work, an Andromedan engineer had said, reviewing the plans. The calculations are impossible. The coordination required is beyond our capabilities. Then we'll make it work anyway, Jin replied. That's kind of our thing. Byung-woo led the fighter squadrons now, teaching other pilots human evasive techniques. Stop flying like you're supposed to survive, he told them. Fly like you're already dead and just haven't stopped moving yet. That's when you're most dangerous. Yunbi established medical stations throughout the system, training coalition medics in human trauma care. We break easily, she explained, so we got very good at fixing ourselves. Pay attention. You're going to need this. Taesung coordinated everything from the command station orbiting Earth, calm as ever despite knowing what was coming. Kralix watched him work, saw the fear the human carried but never let control him. How do you do it? Kralix asked during a brief moment of quiet. How do you stay so calm? I'm not calm, Taesung said. I'm terrified. Every second. But these people need a leader who looks like he believes we can win, so that's what I give them. Do you believe it? Taesung looked at him. I believe we can make them hurt. I believe we can show them why humans don't quit. If that's victory, then yes, I believe. The Velthrak arrived like a storm made solid. The enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace at the system's edge, so large it blocked out the stars. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, everything the Velthrak had gathered for this final assault. Coalition forces were outnumbered 50-1. On the command channel, Kralix heard commanders from various species reporting in. He heard fear in their voices, doubt, the natural response to impossible odds. Then Taesung's voice cut through, calm and clear. All ships, this is command. I see you're all looking at the same numbers I am. I know what you're thinking. I know you're scared. That's good. That means you're paying attention. He paused. This is our line. Not because we're strong, not because we're certain of victory, but because this is where we choose to stand. Because running means everyone dies. Fighting means maybe, just maybe, some of us live. Our children live. The future lives, another pause. Fear is acceptable. Retreat is not. They want our home. They want our families. They want everything we are. Then they'll have to take it from our dead hands. Make them work for it. Make them remember this day for the rest of their species' existence. On Kralix's tactical display, he saw ships adjusting their positions, tightening formations. He heard acknowledgments across the channels, voices steadying, resolving. All ships, Taesung finished. Let's show them why they should have been afraid of us. The battle began. The Velthrak crashed into the outer defenses like a wave hitting rock. The asteroid belt exploded with mines and weapons fire. Human-designed traps activated, turning simple rocks into kinetic weapons. The enemy force stumbled, surprised, but they kept coming. Too many. Always too many. All fighters engage, Byung-woo ordered, his squadron screaming into the battle. Remember, fly like you're already dead. Krelix watched the fighter screens, saw Byung-woo and his pilots diving through impossible enemy formations, taking shots that should have been suicide, somehow surviving through skill and desperate courage. The battle moved inward. Past Mars into the main defensive line. Coalition ships fought with everything they had. Crowley commanded his fleet with precision. But now he understood what the humans had taught him. Plans were good. Adaptation was better. When his flagship's shields failed, he didn't retreat. He pushed forward, using the disabled shield's energy to boost weapons. Around him, other captains followed his example, learning, adapting, fighting like humans. But the casualties were terrible. Ships disappeared from his tactical display faster than he could count. Hyunbi's voice on the medical channel was steady but strained, calling for supplies for help for more than they could give. Jupiter trap is ready, Heejin reported, leading them in now. The human strategy worked. They retreated toward Jupiter in apparent disorder, the Velthrak pursuing eagerly. Then the trap closed. The gravity well pulled enemy ships into each other, into the planet storms, into weapons fire from hidden positions in the moons. The Velthrak lost thousands of ships in minutes. They adapted immediately, split their forces, began methodical advance from multiple vectors. These weren't mindless beasts. They were learning, evolving their tactics. They're focusing fire on the medical stations, Yunbi reported, her voice tight. Station 3 is gone. Station 5 is evacuating. All stations hold position, Taesung ordered. We need those facilities. Sir, they're targeting the wounded, someone protested. I know. Hold position. That's an order. Kralix understood. Cruel as it was, those stations were saving lives. Moving them would cost more than staying. Another hard human lesson. Sometimes you sacrifice the few to save the many, and you live with that weight forever. Station 5 was breached. Yunbi was there. Her channel went to static, then came back. Under attack. 15 wounded, can't evacuate. Holding with whatever we've got. Medical instruments weren't meant for combat, but Kralix heard weapons fire through her channel. Heard her shouting orders, organizing her patients and staff into a desperate defense. Reinforcements en route to Station 5, Kralix reported, diverting ships he couldn't spare. They arrived minutes later. Yunbi and her people had held, using surgical lasers and improvised weapons, protecting their patients with fierce determination. When the relief force found them, Yunbi was still standing, covered in blood, checking vital signs. The battle continued for hours, days. Time became meaningless. Just fighting, surviving, dying. The casualties mounted. 60% of the defense fleet gone, 70%. But the Velthrak were hurting too. Humanity's suicidal tactics, their refusal to quit, their absolute determination, it was breaking the enemy's cohesion. I'm making a run on their command dreadnought, Byung-woo reported. His fighter was damaged, his squadron reduced to 5 ships from 50. If we take out their coordination, maybe it'll be enough. Negative, Taesung said. Your survival probability is 0. Yeah, I know. Worth it, though. Tell everyone I said goodbye. Kralix watched on his screens as Byung-woo's squadron dove toward the massive enemy ship. They were brilliant, fearless, desperate. They broke through the defenses through sheer audacity. Byung-woo's fighter hit the dreadnought's bridge at full speed. The explosion was massive. The dreadnought's command structure collapsed. The enemy fleet faltered. All ships full assault, Taesung ordered, his voice carrying the grief he had no time to feel. Make them remember him. Make them remember all of them. The coalition fleet surged forward, not tactical, not calculated, pure human aggression that the other species had learned to channel. They crashed into the confused enemy like a hammer. Kralix's flagship was surrounded, shields gone, hull breaching. He could retreat, save the ship and surviving crew. Instead, he remembered Daeho's last stand, remembered Byung-woo's sacrifice, remembered what these humans had taught him about fighting for something bigger than survival. All power to weapons, he ordered. Set collision course with that dreadnought. His crew, Centauri warriors who had learned to feel fear and choose courage anyway, followed without hesitation. They screamed toward the enemy command ship. weapons blazing, making every second count. The collision destroyed both ships, but it also shattered the Velthrak command structure completely. The enemy fleet, suddenly leaderless, began to fragment. Kralix found himself in an escape pod, launched automatically before impact. Through the small viewport, he watched the battle continue. Watched the Velthrak fleet for the first time in recorded history begin to retreat. All ships pursue, Taesung ordered. Don't let them regroup. The coalition fleet, battered and bleeding, chased the enemy out of the solar system. Not victory, but survival. Proof that humans and those who learned from them could stand against the darkness. Kralix was recovered hours later by a rescue ship. The pilot was a young human named Jiwan. Commander Taesung will want to see you, she said, grinning despite her obvious exhaustion. You made one hell of an impression. The casualty reports came in slowly. 60,000 dead. Coalition forces reduced by 80%. Entire fleets gone. Stations destroyed. So many names to remember, but Earth stood. Humanity survived. And the Velthrak had learned why they should have been afraid. The memorial service was held in orbit,